Did you know that I actually don't make YouTube videos full time? I actually work full time as a software engineer at a company. I travel quite a bit. I have a partner and a dog, try to take care of my condo. I stay pretty busy, but I do like making YouTube videos, but it's kind of more of like a hobby for me at this point. So I don't have as much time to develop these videos as a lot of other YouTube creators do. So I try to make the most of what I can with it by optimizing my workflows. And so if you've been following me, you know I'm a huge automation and productivity nerd. So you probably are like, well, I'm sure she's got some processes for her videos, and you're correct. So today, that's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how I use different tools, namely Trello, Zapier, and Pixibricks, to organize all of these workflows so that I can get these videos from idea to published and out there into the world for you all to see. So let's dive into these workflows. So first of all, you're probably not surprised to know this all kind of starts in Trello. I have this board, and I'm going to share a template that I'll link to it. So just to kind of walk you through how it works. Basically, each list is a stage in the process I go through as I'm creating a video. So we've got everything starts as an idea. I have my pre-production, I gather assets, then I have post-production, and then I publish and promote it. So each of these lists kind of represents a stage in the workflow, and each card in here is an idea. It's basically something I want to make a video about. And so when I get a new idea of, oh, I want to do a video about this, I just quickly go over here and create a card, new idea for video. And when I do that, that's kind of where it starts. And I also like to use labels, set those at the board level, and customize them to be literally whatever you want. But they're great ways to filter and categorize your cards. So I use labels for the different types of videos that I might be making, or the different themes that they're with, and you can see those in here. And yeah, that's how I use labels. I also use custom fields. Go over here, show menu. You've just got your custom fields here. I have one for the URL, which you can see is actually at when I'm done posting the video, that's where the URL is going to be. So I'm in the process of just formalizing all of this. So that's why this board looks kind of a little bit empty here. And this is where it all starts here in Trello. Super, super easy. Next step of Trello is I actually add some automation onto this. And so when I go from an new idea for a video, and let's say I'm ready to start on it this week, when I drag the card over into the pre-production list, it actually creates this sort of checklist for me. And so I'm going to show you how this all looks in Butler. Butler is Trello's automation. You've probably heard me talk about that before. But you can see what's on this board. So basically, when a card is added to the pre-production list, it adds that checklist from a templated card, which I'll show you a link to where I have all of my templates here, and you can copy and paste from that card. But basically, it grabs a checklist that I've already created with my gathering assets, and my post-production, and then my publish and promote checklist. And so anytime a card moves into the list, it gets the relevant checklist applied to it. And whenever the checklist is completed, it then moves it to the next list. So I'll talk more about what those specific checklists involve as I actually go through them. But for now, I just kind of wanted to show you this is where the automation is set and how it works. And I actually have a card on this template board for you all. I have a card showing you the different rules that you're going to want to create so that you can have all of that working as well. And here is the template checklist. You can see all of them here. So Trello is great, and I obviously do a lot of stuff with it, but sometimes I just prefer Google Sheets and Google Docs for organizing information, and specifically, writing things like outlines, which, as you can see in my checklist here, my first sort of step is to create an outline, detailed outline, think about the footage that I want in my shot list. And if you're wondering, wow, where did she get the ideas for all of this? I recently took Matt DeVella's YouTube course, which is amazing, and I totally recommend it. I think it's actually on the wait list right now and not open, but I'll include a link to it so you can sign up and be notified as soon as it opens again. But really great course, highly recommend. And one of the things he talks about is making a plan for your video before you go around and start shooting it, which is something new to me. Usually I just go around grabbing random screen shares and seeing how it works. So I like doing this in a spreadsheet. He actually just uses Apple Notes, and you could honestly do it inside the description of this Trello card if you wanted to, but I have a different process I prefer. So I use Zapier, which is an automation tool you've probably heard me mention a few times, but it connects different apps to each other. And so I connect Google Drive and Google Sheets with Trello. And so what I do is, this is sort of my template doc I created, which I'm going to link to that as well. So you can copy and paste this, but it's basically it's just a content template of like alt titles, like where I can, brainstorm some different pieces about, what do I want this video to be about, some rough points to sort of cover. And then the next tab is the outline, where I basically take what I want to cover and I turn that into specific talking points of like what I want to go through. You want to actually see, I wasn't planning on showing this necessarily, but this is actually my version that I'm making for this very specific video. So I'm actually in the process of recording this one right here, so you can see my talking points. So now that we're back over here in Google Drive, I actually also have a folder that's just called videos, and that's where I store, or I'm going to start storing the templates. You can see it's kind of new here, and it's at the moment scattered all over my Google Drive, but I want to start keeping them in here. So that's going to be a lot easier and nicer to sort of organize. So I'm going to be doing that. So that's just some information for you to know as we go into Zapier to see how this Zap works. So basically, and I'm going to share the link to this Zap with you so you don't even have to create it from scratch, but I'm just going to show you how it works. So as you set it up, you can. First of all, you'll have to create a Zapier account. You need to connect your Google account and your Trello account, and then you'll see how we map out these relationships in here. But your first action is basically your trigger, which means when this happens, I want to do something else. And so when a card is moved into that pre-production list, that's when I want it to create a new spreadsheet with that template of here's, how you want to have that set up. So the app is Trello, event is card moved to a list. I specify which board and which list. And then I'm adding an action called create spreadsheet in Google Sheets. And so I'm just going to click edit mode just because I find that easier to read and to work in. But click Google Sheets, create spreadsheet, you connect your account, and you'll set up an action. And I prefer to just title it video in brackets and then put card name, and it's going to grab whatever the card name is that moved into that Trello list. And then you can actually, this is really cool. I didn't learn this until I went to actually set this up because I thought I'd have to make it from scratch, but you can actually copy a spreadsheet. So that's how I have a template each time, and I don't have to build out that spreadsheet on my own. I can actually just literally copy that YouTube template. So before you set this up, you're going to want to go copy mine so you have one in your Google Drive that you can reference right here. So you can say, hey, here's the one that I want you to copy. And then you don't have to worry about anything else in there. Next, you want to add, this is a kind of an optional step. I prefer it because I'm an organized freak and I like to keep things in folders. But I basically added an action that's just moving a file. And all I'm doing is saying, hey, that file you just created, and by the way, you reference that file is not, you might think it might be the thing that says file. Oops. When you search in here, you might think, oh, it's going to be the thing that says file in the sheets, right? No, it's actually the ID is what you're going to look for there. So make sure you're pulling in the right thing there. And then you can leave drive blank if you don't put anything there. It's just going to default to your personal drive, and that's fine. And then you want to specify the folder that you want to move it in. So literally all we're saying is, hey, grab the ID of that Google Sheet you just made and go move it into the videos folder. So then, last step here is just adding an attachment to the card so that you can actually have that spreadsheet linked to that to that Trello card, so you can quickly have those two pieces together. So the event you want is adding an attachment to a card, and you don't need to select the board or the list. The card ID is going to be from, the very first step. So you're just saying, hey, grab the ID of the card that moved at the very start. And that's the card I want you to add this to, and add the URL of this new Google Doc that you created. And so, again, I kind of walked you through all these steps, but I shared with you a link in the description where it's kind of got all this plugged in. You'll just have to plug in your own accounts and specify your own Google Drive folder and your own Google Drive template and your Trello boards that you want it to watch. But other than that, it has all these steps pre-populated for you. So hopefully that should be pretty easy to follow. And it's super handy because as you can see when I dragged it over here, it actually created that. So you can see I've got a Google Drive attachment here and I open it up and it has video, new idea for video. So you can see we've got the title of the card name there and it is forever linked on here. So it's right there. And yeah, so now I can kind of work through my checklist and go through all the different pieces here and basically filling out the spreadsheet checks off all of these different things. So that's what I work on there. All right, so now I actually have to gather all of the assets. This part is probably the most consuming. It takes a while, but it's worth it. Since I've started doing this methodically, I've been getting more views and more engagement on my videos, and I can tell it makes a difference. So I use my iPad to see all the shots that I need to get based on what I filled in the spreadsheet, and then I try to get them. I try to really set the scene. I work on getting a combo of A-roll, speaking into the camera directly, and B-roll, which is what you're watching right now, where it's just some kind of footage while I'm talking over it, and using some screen share to show my desktop and tutorial style. So by collecting all of this together, this is what I call getting my assets, so I can have a video and all of this content ready to edit. So now I'm going about gathering all of my assets and just checking off everything as I go through the list. Checks it all off. Moves it into post-production. And then I've got my new checklist here ready to go. So yeah, now I need to just put everything on the computer, pull it all into iMovie, group it all, and then grab music from different places. So kind of go through some of that process, basically import things into iMovie here. If you've ever used iMovie, it's pretty straightforward. Just kind of piecing it all together and grouping it. And then I go to Epidemic Sound, which is something Matt Devella told me about in his course. And this is where I find some different sounds that I can use. And I also use Canva. Another part of my editing involves creating different images that I use sometimes in my videos. So you might recognize this from one of my other videos where I use this to point out the different Trello mistakes people can make. And I find it's a nice way to sort of break up the video and show different pieces there. So you might see me also editing thumbnails and making different sort of pieces with this. So that's how I organize all of my assets and put everything together. So yeah, from there it's just a combination of working through it all. One more thing I do before I hit publish is I like to generate timestamps in my videos, because if you have some text with the time marks in it, YouTube, in your description, YouTube will turn it into links so that people can click and go straight to it. So I like to watch my video over here. I spend a lot of time going through all of down just for your edification here. But I like to watch my video here, and then as I realize like I'm getting to a specific point, I use Pixie Bricks to name a chapter. So test name. And it creates this over here on the side. So as I'm scrubbing through, watching to make sure it all turned out okay, I'll do this. And by the time I'm done, I can just copy and paste this in my description. And then I know people can click on this to go to specific parts of the video if they want. So I have a whole video on how I use the Pixie Bricks to do this, so I'm going to include a link to that in the description. And once I have scheduled my video, it completes that checklist and then boots the card over here to publish and promote, and then gives me my promotion checklist here. I know that getting people to see your content is not as simple as just putting it out there into into the universe. So I'm still trying to experiment with what exactly works best and how to make that work. But these are some of the ideas that I have. I'll schedule it to post on social media, and the way I do that is I add a label to the card for the channels that I want, and then it moves it over to another board where I have basically created my own social publisher. So I'll link to that video as well if you want to see a deep dive on how you can build this as well, where when a card is moved into one of these lists, it will post on either Twitter or LinkedIn or both of them if it falls in that list. And so that's a good way to promote content there. But I also like to, send a message to anybody that I included in the video. So like, for instance, in this video, I'm probably going to let Trello and Zapier and Pixiebricks know that, hey, I mentioned y'all in this video. I also try to post it anywhere that I think is relevant and not spammy. So for instance, if it's a good fit, if it's a pretty Trello heavily focused video about how I use Trello or ways other people might find value in that, I might go post it in the Atlassian community in the Trello section. And then I have my own Trello newsletter. If you've never been there before, you should definitely head over there because it's really cool. I post once a week and I include a roundup of various things I found across the web about other people, how they're using Trello, my latest Trello content, as well as a specific Trello tip. And, sometimes I even include some other things in there that's just productivity related in general. So check that out if you haven't already, because my videos typically fall in there, and it's probably the best way to get reminders every week about new videos that I've made. And then, I look for other sort of relevant places to post it. And then I set a reminder to check the stats in 2 days and switch out the title and thumbnail if needed. Yeah, that's pretty much my process right there. So yeah, that is how I go from idea of a video to published, and here where you're watching it right now. I'm a newbie creator, so if you're seeing this and you have some ideas of other things that I should probably be incorporating in my workflow, or maybe some of those things that I shouldn't be wasting any time on, let me know. I'd love to hear your tips. But otherwise, yeah, please like and subscribe and comment on here and let me know if this is helpful. That helps me know if I should keep doing things like this or if I should pivot and try some other stuff. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.